NBA blockbuster trades are somewhat of a passion of mine. Now, I'm not much of a rumor guy myself. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love a good rumor every once in a while, but I don't tend to latch on too much when it comes to rumors. Like, I'll be like, okay, it's possible. I'll reason, with the rumor. I'll see the good side and the bad side. I'll try to rationalize this happening, and sometimes I feel like it could happen. With all that being said, though, I feel like these recent Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook rumors, we gotta talk about this because this could be some interesting some interesting stuff. Let me tell you, I was actually gonna make this video just solely for Chris Paul, but then all of a sudden, it's like NBA Twitter just decided, you know what, we're just gonna start do a rumor mill about Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook trades. So I was like, well, damn, now it looks like I'm playing onto the rumors, but I'm going to do this anyways, okay? Because I want to talk about the potential destinations for these two star point guards and how they could shake up the franchises they're going to. All right, we're just going to jump right to Chris Paul because that was the point of the video I was going to originally make, but it was originally supposed to be where I think Chris Paul could, succeed, like have the best chance to succeed if he was traded to a certain spot. But since it looks like the Phoenix Suns are actually serious about making a move for him, I've decided just to keep my focus on the Phoenix Suns. So Phoenix Suns, this trade is actually I'd say this is probably the best trade that Phoenix is going to do in quite some time, let me tell you. All they would have to do would be trade Ricky Rubio and along with some picks and maybe add in like another young player there because I assume that if the Thunder are going into either rebuild mode or build around a young core type of thing that they're doing, then they'd probably want some young talent, so to speak. So I'd say Ricky Rubio, one of the young guys. And honestly, it doesn't really matter. Mainly the picks are what matters really, and then you get Chris Paul. So there's nothing really to talk about money wise. It all sort of just works itself out. This is despite Chris's large contract. I mean, he's getting paid the big bucks, let me tell you. He's getting paid like, Jesus Christ. He's getting paid the GDP of some small countries. I think it has to be said, all right? Could this really be Chris Paul's best chance at a ring? I know it sounds ridiculous because we're talking about the Phoenix Suns here. This team has been in the bottom of the Western Conference for the better part of a decade now, and all of a sudden now, the turn of the decade, 2020, 2021, they're finally starting to get their footing. I mean, you saw them in the bubble, 8-0. Something was clicking. I don't know what was clicking, but something was definitely working for them. And they looked like a legitimate contender. If this team is even half as good, like the core team without Chris Paul, and it is even like half as good, like a 50 win percent team, and then they add in Chris Paul, you gotta think that might actually be a pretty scary contender. I mean, again, I laugh a little bit in my head because we're talking about the Phoenix, like the Phoenix Suns, a contender. What are you crazy? But I mean, honestly, if you've looked at what Chris Paul has done for some NBA franchises when it comes to competing, like the Houston Rockets, right? James Harden and Chris Paul, when they teamed up, that Rockets team got as close to a ring as they'll probably get in a while. So and then OKC, I thought OKC was tanking at that point. I did not think these guys were going to contend in the playoffs, let alone a fifth seed too. Like they weren't like eighth seed, seventh seed, just barely in there. They were in there, like they were in the middle of that. And I thought that was pretty crazy. So Chris Paul has earned my respect, and I truly do believe that he can take this Phoenix Suns team wherever. Honestly, he can. The sky's the limit at this point, and with this young core that just pretty much just destroyed teams in the bubble, I'm a little bit afraid. As a Western fan of the Western Conference, I'd be shaking in my boots right now, to say the least. Of course, all good things come with a caveat. That being that depending on when they would give up the picks, because from what I'm hearing, and by hearing I mean literally just read a text saying that, oh yeah, they're working on a deal, I interpret that as maybe it's not going to be as simple as just those two teams. They could add in a third or even a fourth team maybe. Maybe a fourth team would be way too complex. Like, you don't need to overcomplicate such a simple thing, but I don't know how much the Thunder would really like Ricky Rubio. on their team, they'd probably prefer a guy like Kelly Oubre. But it makes the most sense to trade Ricky Rubio because, I mean, is Ricky going to come off the bench? Hell no. Ricky Rubio is a capable starting point guard. His coming off the bench, that's a complete waste of his talents. Again, I don't know exactly how it would work out, and it's pretty simple. It's really just simple with those two teams, the Thunder and the Suns. But if they want to add a third team in there, a third team that wants a pretty capable starting point guard like Ricky Rubio, and maybe that team can give the Thunder some young talent, and the Suns can provide the draft picks, that would make it like an even more perfect trade. Like that would be something else. If they pulled that off, I'd say Suns so far you're doing God's work out here. The Suns are really climbing back into relevance. OKC's hunkering down for let me tell you, they got all of the draft picks. They have all of the goddamn draft picks. By the way, I should also mention, this will probably, if they are serious about contending, the Suns with Chris Paul and Devin Booker, along with the rest of the core team, their window is pretty short. Chris Paul, starting 2020-2021 season, has 2 years left on his contract. That last year is a player option. So if he feels like it's not clicking, he's going to leave. Or actually, maybe not. That's a lot of money to leave on the table, let me just say. And I don't think he's going to get that in free agency. He'll probably take it. But you got to heed my warning here. You only got two seasons, basically, with Chris Paul guaranteed. If they're able to put it together that quickly, maybe win a ring in the next 2 or 3 years, honestly, I'd be amazed if they did. Anyways, I went on way too. I went way too into that Chris Paul thing. Like it's really simple for both teams. It's really simple. But now let's talk about a little bit of more complex matter, and one that I feel like isn't gonna result in anyone winning. Well, maybe one team, but let's just say the New York Knicks are back at it again. They're on the block. They got cap space to spare. They're trying to get a star point guard, and if it ain't gonna be Chris Paul, then they're looking at Russell Westbrook from the Rockets. Now, before I start, I know that the Clippers are interested in acquiring Russell Westbrook as well, but I just have to say good luck with that because holy, they are already deep into the salary. They're into the luxury tax, I believe, and I don't know if they're planning to just trade someone like Paul George or something in order to clear up space and make it so that it all evens out. I don't think they are, but I don't know how they're going to pull this off. How are they going to get Russell Westbrook, who's earning like $41 million? I'm sure they'll figure out a way if they really want him that badly. But again, they just traded all their picks to the Thunder for Paul George. The Rockets are most likely looking to rebuild now if they're really going to trade Russell Westbrook and James Harden. So they're going to want young players, picks, the usual stuff, and I don't think that the Clippers can provide that good of a package, honestly. But this should also be said, what are the Knicks really going to accomplish if they trade for Russell Westbrook? I mean, the money, it's possible. It's easy. With the money, they can honestly clear up enough cap space to where technically they wouldn't have to trade anyone big. Bobby Portis, $15 million a year, that's a team option, so they could just decline that. No one's going to be paying Bobby $15 million. You're not really going to miss him too much, let me tell you. No offense, but that's just how it is. So Russell Westbrook can just slide in there, no problem. No, I don't think they'd go into the luxury tax. I think they'd still have a little bit of cap room left. But my question is, who do you trade? The Knicks have expressed that they are not interested in trading R.J. Barrett or Mitchell Robinson, which are pretty much, if I'm the Rockets, those would be like the two young guys I'd be looking for in a trade. I mean, I'm rebuilding. I want young talent on my team to, start from the bottom, build a young core from the top. And I mean, looking up and down the roster, you got Frank Ntilikina. Knicks fans aren't going to want to let him go. And if they don't want to give up R.J. Barrett and Mitchell Robinson, then who do you really have left, honestly? Well, I think the picks would be fine. But when trading for a player like Russell Westbrook, you've got to give like at least something not exactly on point player-wise, but someone that's, the other franchise values just maybe, 25% less than Russell Westbrook, and then the picks sort of make up for that. And just looking up and down the Knicks roster, I don't really see anyone that the Rockets might view as, okay, we could definitely use this guy, if not as a young star, maybe a core piece in the future. I mean, he's got room to grow. Julius Randle, maybe. I'd put my money on Julius Randle. He's only 25. He hasn't had the best season with the Knicks, but he balled out with the Pelicans. He's got some potential still, I feel like. However, as the Rockets, I'd honestly just say that, hey man, I'm giving you Russell Westbrook. He's no scrub, all right? Give me something of at least decent, like 50% less of what Russell Westbrook's worth player-wise, and then just make up for the other 50% in picks. And if I'm looking at R.J. Barrett, I'm looking at Mitchell Robinson, the two young guys, looking at Frank, but I don't think the Knicks are going to be willing to give up that. I guess the question I'm really asking here, what would you really achieve with Russell Westbrook? He may lead you into the playoff hunt. For sure. I could easily, especially in the East, easily see Russell Westbrook just taking this team to like a 6th seed right away. But at the same time, I don't think you're going to win a ring with Russell Westbrook. Unless the Knicks have plans to build around him and eventually turn into a real contender, it's going to take a lot more than Russell Westbrook to get you to even the conference finals, let me tell you. I mean, we all know Russell Westbrook's playoff history. And he's only getting older, too. I'd hate to be the bearer of bad news, but athletic point guards, as they start to get older, athleticism declines. Also, it should again, same thing. Russell Westbrook, when you get him, he's got 3 years on his contract, last one being a player option. He'll probably take the money. But it's like, how long do you really have with Russell Westbrook? At this point, I don't know what the Knicks are trying to achieve, really. It feels like they're doing the same thing again, where they're just going after big names for the sake of going after big names. That ain't. Let me just say, that ain't no way to build a roster. It's not going to work out for them if they're doing this. You can quote me on this. I'm officially a Russell Westbrook hater. Okay, if he proves me wrong, if the Knicks organization actually shows competence and proves my ass wrong, call me out on it. Anyways, I feel like I've gone on way too long at this point. I've said my piece. I've said what I need to say. Honestly. Suns with Chris Paul, potential championship team right there if they can put it together quickly. Knicks acquiring Russell Westbrook, don't really know why. Don't really know what the purpose is for that. That's the end of the video. Make sure to like it if you enjoyed. If you have anything to add, have some insight, maybe I missed something, please comment it down below. Also, feel free to call me out on something I missed, because I can be a dumbass too. I mean, I'm only human. So just call me out on some bullshit. And also subscribe if you're interested in weekly NBA content. I'm working on some other videos down the line. I don't post daily NBA content. I do other stuff. Make sure you check that out too. You might find something you like. But yeah. Anyways, that's it for me. Take it easy.